The story continues with Fate once again annoyed by Mind's gluttony. Mind responds by saying that anger burns lots of calories, trying to lighten the mood. She shares her food with him, treating him like a child by feeding him beef jerky and patting his head. Greed finds this amusing. Fate notices Mind sitting beside him, resting her head on his thigh. Perplexed, he asks her what she's doing. Mind casually replies that this is the best bed in the carriage. Despite the cramped space, she quickly falls asleep, resembling a child. Fate reflects on Mind's earlier statement about being a ghost not allowed to die and having something to do. He seeks answers from Greed about what Mind is fighting against. Greed, however, remains silent. Frustrated, Fate complains, but Greed cryptically responds that he'll see it if he stays with her. Fate senses that this could become troublesome in the future. Meanwhile, Roxy and her companions are on their way to Galia. They arrive at Barbados village and discuss the castle, mentioning that a lake monster rules it. Despite their initial plan to get closer to the castle, Roxy notices the absence of monsters, and Mugen suggests that the area may have been cleared recently. Eren arrives and introduces himself, with Mugen showing respect for him as the Sword Saint. Roxy tries to introduce herself, but Eren recognizes her, stating that he knew her parents and they asked him to name her. Roxy is surprised by this revelation, and Mugen expresses envy, noting that she has a hero as her namesake. However, Eren clarifies that he is a former hero who retired after losing his family, revealing the emotional toll of his past. Roxy mentions that Eren managed to defeat the Lick Lord, but Eren humbly credits his success to someone who fought alongside him. Mugen and Miria express their desire to meet this mysterious warrior, but Eren shares that the person left on a journey, declining to reveal their name as per Fate's request. Roxy, understanding the situation, apologizes for disturbing Eren and decides to leave. Eren inquires if she's heading to Galia, to which Roxy expresses surprise at the accurate guess. Eren suggests that her mission might be planned by the Velaric family, considering both the Heart and Barbado families as threats. Roxy clarifies that she volunteered for the mission, and intends to fulfill her father's wishes by protecting people. Eren is shocked to learn about her father's passing due to the current situation. He then offers Roxy lessons, asking if she wants to take them from him. Roxy, initially confused, agrees to learn from Eren, expressing her desire to become stronger. Eren is impressed by Roxy's determination, noting that she possesses the same type of sword as her father and similar skills. He promises to teach her how to fight when they reach Galia, and they continue their journey together. Meanwhile, Fate expresses his discontent to Mine as they have been walking for a while since the last town. He is confused about the place, which appears to be full of ruins. Mine discloses that this is where she was born, though she doesn't have memories of the place since she was taken to the imperial capital after birth. Despite that, this place holds significance for her. Fate is puzzled and questions Mine about Galia, mentioning that he thought it was destroyed 400 years ago. However, Mine ignores the question and continues walking. They arrive at a random site where Mine claims to have found something. When Fate looks ahead, he sees a peculiar cocoon. Greed chimes in, expressing disbelief that one of those things is still alive. Mine continues walking, and Fate follows her, seeking an explanation from Greed about the cocoon. Greed elucidates that it's a chimera, a military weapon created in Galia long ago by using monsters as the core. Fate is bewildered, prompting Greed to explain that chimeras were their greatest failure. As they approach the chimera, Greed remarks that he thought all chimeras were disabled. Mine then informs Fate that he owes her a favor. Fate is taken aback, realizing that they have to defeat this chimera. He checks its stats and discovers that its lowest stat is in the millions. The chimera's skills appear as errors, and Greed clarifies that it's unstable due to artificially mixing monster skills. Mine reveals that it's still a child chimera, making it possible to defeat. Fate, uncertain about what to do, asks Mine. She explains that the chimera won't die by simply beating it. They need his Gluttony's soul-eating ability. Fate grasps that the power is sinful and questions Mine about the girl inside the chimera. She responds that the girl is the chimera's core. Without further delay, Mine initiates the attack by striking the chimera's egg. A monster emerges, and Fate notices the girl within the monster's chest. He observes that her eyes resemble his own. Mine states that the monster is trying to intimidate him, and Greed advises Fate to look away to avoid losing his will to fight. Fate, concerned, inquires about the girl. Mine asserts that the girl is a monster in human form and insists that Fate must deliver the finishing blow to the core. Fate hesitates, explaining that if he eats her soul, the girl will suffer in eternal hell. Mine warns him not to be deceived by sentimentality, emphasizing that the girl is a monster. The chimera roars, and Mine quickly grabs Fate to dodge its attack. The monster summons lava, and Fate, seeking Greed's assistance, asks him to become a weapon. However, Greed refuses, citing his inability to cut through that particular attack. In the midst of the battle, Mine abruptly stops and instructs Fate to stay behind her. Swiftly, she slashes through the lava, halting the impending attack. Mine suggests they split up, deftly slicing the monster's arms. To buy some time, Fate employs his petrification arrows, but Greed advises him to focus since the monster is already regenerating. Fate, puzzled, questions how they can defeat the Chimera. Greed elucidates that chimeras were designed to fight independently for eternity. Despite Fate's uncertainty, Mine continues to skillfully slice through the monster's limbs. He observes Mine's enhanced power, attributed to her weapon, Sloth. Greed explains that Sloth becomes stronger and heavier with each swing. The Chimera roars in pain as Mine inflicts damage. Fate notices her increasing strength. Mine clarifies that the Chimera is attempting to evolve, and wings sprout from its back. Mine orders Fate to stay behind her, and he reflects on how he's frequently protected by others. Feeling a sense of self-disgust, he expresses his desire to change and become stronger. Mine warns him about the risks of activating his half-starvation mode, but Fate is determined, knowing he can't help her without it. As Fate activates his skill, he experiences intense pain. The Chimera attacks, but Mine blocks it. Fate, seizing an opportunity, initiates a plan to use the Chimera's explosive feathers to their advantage. Using Greed, he cuts the feathers, creating an explosion. Leaping into the air, he transforms Greed into a bow, charging it with 10% of his stats and sandstorm magic. The Chimera gets petrified, allowing Mine to unleash a powerful attack with Sloth. Despite their progress, the Chimera activates a barrier skill. Fate attempts to cut it with his sai, but it proves ineffective. Greed instructs him to find the flow of mana and hit the weak point. Fate identifies the weak point and successfully damages the Chimera's core. However, he notices the girl within the Chimera looking his way and decides to avoid eye contact. The Chimera takes advantage of the distraction and flies away. Landing, Fate realizes his time is running out. Mine proposes an unconventional plan. Fate should get on her weapon so she can launch him into the air to defeat the Chimera before it regenerates. Despite his confusion, Fate agrees to be launched. Greed introduces a tempting offer. For 20% of Fate's stats, he can access the second stage ultimate, and Fate agree with him. Fate inquires of Greed about the strategy to defeat the Chimera, and Greed advises him to read the flow of mana. As Fate follows this guidance, he discovers that the girl within the Chimera is the source of the mana. As Fate battles the Chimera, it devises a dangerous plan to trap him inside its shield barrier and burn itself, intending to take Fate down with it. Time is running out as Fate starts spinning in midair, engulfed in flames, and pierces the girl within the Chimera. This triggers a massive explosion, but something strange happens to him. Firstly, his telepathy skill activates, revealing images of the Chimera core girl and Mine hugging each other. Secondly, his Gluttony skill activates, but instead of the usual excitement, he feels a sense of loneliness. Greed explains that this is how it works and reveals that the Chimera core is an inferior version, but still a part of Fate's kin. Meanwhile, Mine is simply watching the Chimera core girl turn into stone and fall. Fate lands and approaches Mine, asking if she knew the girl. Mine explains she has forgotten what happened a long time ago, but once they become a Chimera, they must defeat them, otherwise, more people will die. Fate starts to realize that he, too, could become a lunatic who goes on a rampage. He decides to ask Mine for a favor if one day he loses himself to Gluttony. He wants her to kill him because he knows she's the only one who can if he goes berserk. Mine then walks towards him and hugs him. Fate is confused, but she explains that she will do it when the time comes. In the aftermath, Fate mentions he will be heading to Babylon and asks about Mine. She mentions that she still has to build a village for her people. He's confused because he didn't expect that to be a true story. However, she mentions she has a certain feeling about him and predicts that Fate will be dead before they meet again. It turns out that Fate decided to reset his stats to unlock Greed's shield mode. In short, his current stats are all back to 1, therefore, she thinks he will die soon. He realizes his mistake and asks her for help to hunt and raise his stats. However, she walks away and asks for money. Fate manages to reach Babylon a few hours later, but Greed is complaining because Fate is heading to the wrong gate. Fate turns away and asks if Greed has been here before. Greed confirms, mentioning his previous wielder was also a deadly sin user. They finally enter the city, but there's a problem. Fate is a glutton, and the food prices are 5 times higher than the capital. The Holy Knights arrive at the same time, and Fate puts on his mask before spotting Roxy from a distance. Suddenly, a woman appears behind him, and he senses something but can't find anyone. Meanwhile, we hear the girl saying that Roxy is going to die here. This brings an end to our episode.